They say the golden years bring peace, that family becomes your warmest refuge. But when I climbed the steps to the house I'd helped build with my own savings, seeing my life packed neatly into cardboard boxes with a note that read, "Thanks for everything, but we need the space," I understood something profound. Sometimes those who betray you share your blood. The Texas heat pressed down as I stood there, 72 years old, holding that scrap of paper while my son avoided my eyes through the window. My name is Margaret Holloway, though everyone calls me Maggie. I've lived in San Marcos, Texas, for 47 years, raised 3 children in this heat, and buried my husband in the cemetery off Ranch Road 12. I thought I'd seen everything life could throw at a person. I was wrong. That August afternoon started like any other. I'd driven to H-E-B for groceries, careful to buy the organic milk my daughter-in-law insisted on, the specific brand of diapers for little Emma, and those expensive protein bars my son ate before his morning runs. The plastic bags cut into my palms as I climbed our front steps. My steps, bought with money from selling the family grocery store. The first thing I noticed was my old red kettle sitting on top of a cardboard box. That kettle had whistled on my stove every morning for 30 years. Now it gleamed in the harsh Texas sun, abandoned like roadside trash. More boxes lined the porch, my mother's china, wrapped hastily in newspaper, photo albums I'd carefully maintained since 1973, the quilt my grandmother made, folded carelessly and stuffed into a garbage bag, 72 years of life reduced to a garage sale display. The note was taped to the largest box, 7 words in my daughter-in-law's perfect schoolteacher handwriting. "Thanks for everything, but we need the space." I stood there, groceries still in hand, sweat trickling down my back, the ceiling fan inside whirred steadily. I could hear it through the door I'd painted last spring, the door I apparently no longer had the right to open. It opened anyway. My son Kyle appeared, all 6 feet 2 inches of him, wearing the golf shirt I'd given him for Father's Day. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," he started, then stopped. Behind him, Jessica emerged, one hand on her swollen belly, the other holding Emma on her hip. My granddaughter reached for me, but Jessica shifted her away. "We talked about this," Jessica said, though we'd done no such thing. "With the new baby coming, we need your room for the nursery. Kyle's promotion means we can manage without your Social Security contributions now." "Your room, your contributions," as if I were a tenant who'd outlived my lease. "I paid for that room," I said quietly. "I paid for the whole addition." Kyle shuffled his feet, the same tell he'd had since he was 12 and broke my carnival glass vase. "We appreciate everything you've done. Mom, we really do. But Jessica's right, we need our own space as a family." Our own space. 4 years I'd lived here. 4 years of 5 a.m. wake-ups to make Kyle's breakfast before work. 4 years of babysitting Emma while Jessica got her master's degree. 4 years of quietly paying the electric bill when I noticed the late notices. Buying groceries when the pantry got bare. Covering the mortgage that month Kyle got laid off and was too proud to tell anyone but me. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked. Jessica adjusted Emma on her hip, a gesture I'd seen her practice in the mirror when she thought no one was watching. The perfect young mother pose. "We found you a nice efficiency apartment on the east side. First month's already paid." The east side, where the college kids lived, where police sirens wailed all night, where a woman my age would check her locks 3 times before bed and still not sleep sound. I set the grocery bags down slowly, careful not to let the eggs break. No point in wasting food. Even now, the ice cream would melt in this heat, the milk would spoil, but that wasn't my concern anymore. Nothing in that house was my concern anymore. "I'll need time to arrange a truck," I said. "Uncle Pete's bringing his pickup at 6, Kyle said, finally meeting my eyes. "We thought it'd be easier if you didn't have to worry about the details." Easier? They'd planned this like a military operation. Waited until I was gone. Packed my life away. Arranged the deportation of their live-in help. How long had they been planning this? Days? Weeks? Had they smiled at me over breakfast this morning, knowing they'd change the locks by dinner? I looked at my granddaughter one more time. Emma had my nose, my stubborn chin. She'd have my temper, too. God help her. Bye-bye, baby girl, I said. Gamma! Emma reached for me again. And this time, Jessica turned away entirely. Walking back into the house, my house, without another word. Kyle lingered on the threshold, looking like he wanted to say something more. I saved him the trouble. I'll be gone by 6, I said, and turned back to my boxes, my back straight as the Texas pine growing in what used to be my garden. The door closed with a soft click. I heard the deadbolt turn, the one I'd insisted on installing after the break-ins 2 blocks over. Somewhere inside, Emma was crying, but that wasn't my concern anymore either. I sat down on the porch step, ignoring the splinters, and began to inventory my boxed-up life. The August heat pressed down like a flat iron, but I felt cold straight through to my bones. Not from shock. I was too old for that kind of drama. This was the chill of recognition, of pieces falling into place. They needed the space. All right, just not the kind they thought. The efficiency apartment smelled like old cigarettes and broken dreams. I sat on the Murphy bed that creaked with every breath, surrounded by boxes that held 7 decades of memories, and let myself remember what I'd given up for the privilege of being discarded. 4 years ago, Kyle had shown up at my door at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I knew something was wrong before he spoke. My boy never visited without Jessica orchestrating it. He sat at my kitchen table, the same one where he'd done homework and eaten thousands of meals, and cried like he hadn't since his father's funeral. We're going to lose the house, Mom. The story came out in pieces. Bad investments. Credit cards maxed out paying for Jessica's school. A second mortgage they'd hidden from everyone. 3 months behind on payments. Foreclosure notices piling up like autumn leaves. How much? I'd asked. $48,000, just to catch up and keep them from taking it. $48,000. I had $53,000 in savings, plus the store. Holloway's Grocery had been in the family since 1962, when Kyle's father bought it with his Army discharge money. It wasn't much, just a corner shop where locals bought milk and lottery tickets, but it was paid for and profitable. I sold it in 3 weeks, below market value, but cash in hand. The new owners kept the name out of respect, though they painted over the hand-lettered sign my husband made. I drove by once and never went back. The house needed work too. Foundation repairs, new roof, updated plumbing for Jessica's spa-like master bathroom. Another $30,000 gone. My retirement evaporated like morning dew on Texas asphalt, but family is family. That's what I told myself writing each check. You'll always have a home with us, Jessica had said, hugging me tight at the closing. She smelled like that expensive perfume from Dillard's, the kind I'd never buy for myself. We're going to add a mother-in-law suite just for you. You'll have your own space, but be close to the baby. The suite turned out to be a converted garage with a window unit that rattled like a dying man's chest, but it was mine, or so I thought. I made it comfortable with my mother's furniture and my quilts, hung pictures of my late husband, my children, my old life. I became their built-in everything: babysitter, cook, housekeeper, emergency fund. When Jessica's car needed new tires, I bought them. When Kyle wanted that riding mower for the acre lot, I co-signed. When Emma needed surgery for ear tubes, I covered the deductible they couldn't afford even with Kyle's good insurance. The disrespect came in drops, then streams. Jessica started criticizing my cooking. Too much salt, too much fat, not organic enough. We're trying to eat clean, Maggie, she'd say, pushing aside the pot roast I'd spent 3 hours preparing. They ordered takeout instead, containers piling up in the trash while my food went bad in the fridge. They stopped inviting me to Sunday dinners unless they needed a babysitter. I'd hear them laughing over wine while I gave Emma her bath. When Kyle's brother visited from Dallas, Jessica introduced me as Kyle's mom who helps out sometimes, like I was hired help who happened to share DNA. The locked door incident started last year. coming back from my morning walk to find myself locked out, ringing the doorbell like a stranger. "Oh, sorry," Jessica would say, not looking sorry at all. "We didn't know you were out." Even though I walked the same route every morning at 6 a.m., had for 30 years. They excluded me from family photos at Emma's 3rd birthday. "Just the nuclear family," Jessica had said, positioning herself between Kyle and Emma while I stood to the side with my camera. Later, I saw those photos on Facebook with captions about their perfect little family. 67 likes. Not one mentioned the grandmother who'd baked the cake from scratch because Emma was allergic to store-bought frosting. But I endured it, smiled through the slights, swallowed the hurt with my blood pressure medication, because that's what mothers do. We endure. We forgive. We pretend not to notice when our place in the family shrinks from matriarch to inconvenience. The financial abuse was quieter but constant. They had access to my checking account for emergencies. Kyle had said, emergencies like Jessica's spa days, Kyle's golf club membership, weekend trips to Austin they didn't invite me on but expected me to watch Emma for. "You don't mind, do you, Mom?" Kyle would ask, already packed, keys in hand. "You love spending time with Emma." I did love my granddaughter. She was the only one in that house who still looked at me like I mattered. But love shouldn't come with a price tag, and mine had been steep. $87,000 over 4 years, not counting the free labor, the meals cooked, the dignity swallowed. Now I sat in this moldy apartment, calculating what I'd lost. Not just money, that was just paper and numbers. I'd lost my belief that sacrifice meant something, that family bonds couldn't be broken by greed and convenience. Most of all, I'd lost the illusion that my son was still the boy I'd raised to value love over money, family over comfort. But as I unpacked my boxes, handling each item like evidence in a crime, I found something else. Papers I'd kept out of habit, deeds, receipts, contracts, my late husband's meticulous records of every improvement, every payment, every piece of legal proof that the house at 412 Bluebonnet Lane belonged to Margaret Ann Holloway. I may have been old, dismissed and discarded, but I wasn't beaten. Not yet. 3 weeks before they packed my life into boxes, I discovered my pearl necklace was missing. It wasn't just any necklace. My husband Richard had given it to me on our wedding day in 1973, a single strand of Akoya pearls that had belonged to his grandmother. "Every Holloway bride wears these," he'd said, fastening the clasp at the nape of my neck. I'd worn them at our children's baptisms, at his funeral, at every moment that mattered. I kept them in my jewelry box, wrapped in the original blue velvet. That morning, I'd wanted to wear them to my doctor's appointment. Silly, maybe. But they made me feel less alone. The velvet was there, but the pearls were gone. I searched everywhere, under the bed, behind the dresser, in coat pockets I hadn't worn in months. Jessica found me on my hands and knees, checking beneath the bathroom sink. "What are you looking for?" she asked, voice sharp with impatience. "My pearls, Richard's grandmother's pearls." "Oh," she shifted her weight, one hand on her pregnant belly. "You probably misplaced them. You know how you forget things lately." I didn't forget things. My mind was sharp as the scissors I'd used to cut fabric for 50 years. But I let it go, the way I'd let everything go. Maybe they'd turn up. Maybe I was getting old. Maybe. The baby shower was the following Saturday. Jessica didn't invite me. "It's just for my young mom friends," she'd said. But I could hear the laughter from my converted garage room, heard the squeals over gifts, the clinking of champagne glasses, the kind of joy that comes with new beginnings and other people's money. I was folding laundry when Emma toddled in, chocolate smeared on her dress. "Gamma, party." "I know, baby. Are you having fun?" She nodded, then pulled me by the hand. 3-year-old determination is a force of nature. "Come see Mommy's pretty." I shouldn't have followed her, should have stayed in my place, kept my head down, continued the charade of the grateful mother-in-law who knew her role, but Emma's sticky hand in mine was stronger than my resolve. The living room was full of young women, all blonde highlights and yoga pants, sipping mimosas from my wedding crystal. Jessica held court in the center, glowing with pregnancy and something else. Triumph. Maybe. She was opening a gift. Tissue paper everywhere, when I saw them. My pearls. Richard's grandmother's pearls, the ones that had graced 3 generations of Holloway brides, around my daughter-in-law's neck like they belonged there. "Oh, Jessica, those are stunning," one of her friends gushed. Jessica touched them with manicured fingers, the same gesture I'd made 1,000 times. They're family heirlooms. Kyle gave them to me when we found out about the baby. They've been in his family for generations. The room tilted. I gripped Emma's hand too tight, making her whimper. "Every Holloway bride wears them," Jessica continued, echoing words that weren't hers to say. "I'll pass them down to my daughter someday." Her friends cooed and awed. Someone took a photo. Jessica posed, one hand on the pearls, the other on her belly, the picture of maternal grace and inherited privilege. I stood in the doorway, invisible as wallpaper, watching my daughter-in-law claim my history as her own. She saw me then, our eyes meeting across the room full of women who'd never know what those pearls cost, what they meant, whose neck they'd graced through decades of love and loss. She didn't flinch, didn't stutter, just smiled that practice smile and continued her story about family traditions and precious heirlooms, while I stood there in my housecoat and slippers, looking like exactly what I'd become, an intruder in my own life. "Maggie," one of the women noticed me. "Are you joining us?" "She was just getting Emma," Jessica said smoothly. "Weren't you, Maggie? I think it's time for her nap." Dismissed. In front of a room full of strangers, wearing my dead husband's gift around her throat. She dismissed me like hired help. I took Emma back to my room, closed the door, and sat on my bed while my granddaughter played with blocks on the floor. Through the thin walls, I heard Jessica telling another story, this one about how they'd renovated the house, how much work it had been, how proud they were to provide such a beautiful home for their growing family. Not one word about who paid for it, not one mention of the woman sitting 10 feet away who'd sold her life's work to save their dreams. That's when I knew. This wasn't about space or babies or family dynamics. This was theft, plain and simple. They'd taken my money, my dignity, my place in the family. Now they'd taken my history, too, wearing it like costume jewelry while the real owner sat locked away like a madwoman in the attic. The pearls were just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, other things vanished. My mother's silver serving spoon. The first edition Steinbeck Richard bought me for our anniversary. Small things, valuable things. Things that told the story of who I was before I became their unpaid help. When I mentioned the missing items to Kyle, he got that look, the one Jessica had taught him. Equal parts pity and impatience. "Mom, you're probably just misplacing things. It happens at your age." Your age. Like 72 was synonymous with senility. Like the woman who'd balanced his checkbook until he was 30 couldn't keep track of her own possessions. I stopped mentioning the thefts, started documenting them instead, took photos of what remained, made lists of what was gone. Evidence. Though I didn't know yet what I'd do with it. 3 weeks later, they packed my boxes while I bought their groceries. 3 weeks after my pearls graced another woman's neck, they changed the locks on the door I'd paid for. But sitting in that roach-infested apartment, holding the photo I'd secretly taken of Jessica wearing my pearls at her shower, I felt something harder than sadness, sharper than betrayal. I felt the cold clarity that comes when you finally see people for who they really are. They thought they'd won. Thought they'd gotten the house, the money, the heirlooms, everything worth taking from an old woman too weak to fight back. They thought wrong. The lock on my small fireproof safe clicked open with the combination I'd never forgotten. Richard's birthday backwards. Inside, beneath our marriage certificate and his death certificate, lay the papers that would change everything. I spread them across the rickety table in my efficiency apartment like a general planning a campaign. Deed to 412 Bluebonnet Lane, dated March 2020, sole owner, Margaret Ann Holloway, receipts for foundation repair, roof replacement, plumbing updates, all paid from my accounts, bank statements showing the $48,000 transfer that saved them from foreclosure. Every piece of evidence I'd kept out of habit. Now weapons in a war I never wanted to fight. Thomas Beck answered on the second ring. Maggie, good Lord, I haven't heard from you since I sold the store to save my son's house. I kept my voice steady. I need to see you. Tom. Tom had been our family lawyer for 30 years. He'd handled Richard's will, the store sale, every major transaction of my adult life. More importantly, he'd never liked Jessica. She's got calculating eyes, he'd said after meeting her. I should have listened. His office in downtown San Marcos hadn't changed. Same leather chairs, same diplomas on the wall, same photo of his fishing boat on the desk. What had changed was the look on his face as he reviewed my documents. Maggie, this is... He adjusted his reading glasses, examined the deed again. The house is unquestionably yours. Your name only. No liens, no co-owners. And these receipts, you paid for everything. They kicked me out 3 days ago. I showed him the photo of the note. Packed my things while I was at the grocery store. Tom's face darkened. That's illegal eviction. You're the homeowner. They're essentially squatters at this point. The word hung in the air. Squatters. My son and his family, reduced to a legal term for people who take what isn't theirs. What are my options? Tom leaned back, fingers steepled. Several. We could start with a formal eviction notice. Give them 30 days. Or... He paused, studying me. We could go nuclear. File for immediate possession based on a legal lockout of the legal owner, plus damages for theft of property, elder abuse, financial exploitation, the pearls alone. Do you have proof they were yours? I pulled out the insurance appraisal from 1995, complete with photos. Richard had insisted on insuring them properly. Valued at $12,000 then. Probably worth twice that now. Jesus, Maggie, Tom shook his head. They really cleaned you out, didn't they? I let them. The admission tasted bitter. I thought I was buying a place in their lives. What you bought was a house they're now stealing. He pulled out a legal pad, began writing. Here's what I recommend. We file a comprehensive lawsuit, recovery of property, damages for illegal eviction, return of stolen items. The financial elder abuse angle is particularly strong. Texas doesn't take kindly to children exploiting aging parents. I don't want to destroy them, I said, though part of me wondered if that was still true. I just want what's mine. Tom looked at me over his glasses. Maggie, they destroyed you first. They took your money, your dignity, your family heirlooms, and then threw you out like trash. The law is on your side here. The question is, how far do you want to take it? I thought about Emma, about future grandchildren I might never know. Then I thought about Jessica wearing my pearls, about Kyle avoiding my eyes while his wife changed the locks on doors I'd paid for. I want them to understand, I said finally. I want them to feel what it's like to lose everything they thought was theirs. Tom nodded slowly. Then we go nuclear. Full lawsuit, immediate filing. I can have papers drawn up by Monday, served by Tuesday. I know a judge who doesn't appreciate elder abuse. We might get an emergency hearing within the week. Will they have to leave? If we win, and Maggie, with this evidence, we will win. They'll have 30 days to vacate. Less if the judge is feeling punitive about the illegal lockout. 30 days. The same notice you'd give any tenant, any stranger who'd overstayed their welcome. It seemed both too long and not long enough. There's something else, Tom said carefully. Given the clear pattern of financial exploitation, we could petition to freeze their assets during litigation. Make sure they don't hide money or property that might be yours. Kyle has his job. They won't starve. No, but they'll feel the squeeze. No more spa days for Jessica. No more golf clubs for Kyle. They'll have to live on just his salary, like regular people. Like I'd lived, scrimping and saving for 50 years to build something worth stealing. Do it, I said, all of it. Tom made more notes, outlining strategy. We'd serve them at the worst possible time, during the baby shower aftermath, when Jessica would be surrounded by the same friends who'd admired my stolen pearls. The lawsuit would be comprehensive, devastating, and completely legal. One more thing, Tom said as I prepared to leave. That efficiency apartment, that's not fit for you. I've got a garage apartment behind my house, fully furnished. My mother-in-law lived there before she passed. You're welcome to it. No rent until this is settled. I almost cried then, at this small kindness from someone who owed me nothing. Tom, I couldn't. You could, and you will. Consider it my personal investment in justice. He stood, walked me to the door. Maggie, they counted on you being too old, too tired, too beaten down to fight back. They're about to learn what Richard always said. Holloway women don't go down easy. I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, not yet, but purpose, direction, the cold satisfaction of knowing that every document in that safe, every receipt I'd kept, every piece of evidence I'd preserved out of habit or heartbreak, all of it was about to come back to haunt the two people who'd mistaken my kindness for weakness. They wanted space. They were about to get more than they'd bargained for. Tom worked faster than promised. By Monday afternoon, the lawsuit was filed. By Tuesday morning, we had a process server ready. The timing, we decided, would be surgical, calculated for maximum impact. Jessica teaches at Blanco Vista Elementary, I told Tom, checking the notes I'd kept about their schedules. She has pregnancy checkups every other Thursday at 2 p.m. Kyle works from home on Fridays. So we serve them Friday morning, Tom said. Both home, probably having their coffee, planning their weekend with your house. But I had a better idea. The baby shower thank you party, this Saturday at 11 a.m. She invited the same women from the shower to see the nursery they're setting up. I paused. In my room. Tom's smile was sharp. You sure that's aggressive? They packed my life into boxes while I was buying their groceries. Aggressive seems appropriate. We refined the plan over the next 3 days. Tom compiled everything into a formidable legal package: the lawsuit for property recovery, the elder abuse filing, the demand for immediate restitution. The stack of papers grew thick as a phone book, each page another nail in the coffin they'd built themselves. I spent those days in Tom's garage apartment, a space that showed more respect for my dignity in 3 rooms than my family had shown in 4 years. I could have been bitter. Instead, I was busy. I wrote out every transaction I could remember, every payment made on their behalf, every time they'd accessed my accounts for their emergencies. The total was staggering, over $90,000, not counting the house payments. Saturday arrived bright and merciless, the Texas sun already baking the pavement by 9 a.m. Tom picked me up at 10:30, the legal papers secure in his briefcase. You don't have to come, and he said. I can handle this alone. I want to see their faces. I dressed carefully, not the housecoat they'd grown used to seeing me in, but my navy suit, the one I'd worn to run the store. My grandmother's cameo at my throat, replacing the pearls they'd stolen. I looked like what I was, a woman of means who'd been temporarily displaced. We parked down the street from 412 Bluebonnet Lane. I could see cars already gathering, Jessica's teacher friends with their SUVs and baby seats. Through the living room window, I caught glimpses of pink balloons, women laughing, Jessica holding court in what had been my home. Ready? Tom asked. I've been ready since they locked me out. We walked up the driveway I'd paid to repave. Tom rang the doorbell I'd installed. Inside, the chatter quieted. Footsteps approached. Kyle's heavy tread, not Jessica's quick steps. The door opened. My son stood there in khakis and a polo, the picture of suburban success. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, then something like fear. Mom, what are you... Mr. Kyle Holloway? Tom stepped forward, all business. Thomas Beck, attorney at law. I'm here to serve you with legal papers regarding the property at 412 Bluebonnet Lane." "What?" Kyle's voice cracked like it had when he was 13. "Mom, what is this?" "Is Jessica home?" Tom continued. "She's named in the suit as well." "Kyle, who is it?" Jessica's voice carried from inside, followed by her appearance in the doorway. She wore a floral maternity dress and, God help her, my pearls. The same pearls she'd claimed as Kyle's family heirloom. Her face went white when she saw us. "Mrs. Jessica Holloway, these are for you." Tom handed her a thick envelope. "You're being sued for illegal eviction, elder financial abuse, theft of property, and conversion of assets. You have 30 days to vacate the premises." "Vacate?" Jessica's teacher voice went shrill. "This is our house." "No," I said, speaking for the first time. "It's mine. Check the deed." Behind Jessica, her friends had gathered, wine glasses in hand, watching the drama unfold. One had her phone out, probably recording. "Good. Let them all see." "Mom, this is insane." Kyle tried. "We can talk about this." "We could have talked before you changed the locks," I said. "Before you stole my pearls. Before you decided I was disposable." Jessica's hand went to the necklace. "These were a gift. Kyle gave them to me." Kyle had no right to give away what wasn't his. I looked at my son. "Just like you had no right to lock me out of the house I own." "You're embarrassing us," Jessica hissed. "In front of everyone." "Like you embarrassed me, introducing me as the help, locking me out of family photos, taking my money while treating me like an unwanted boarder?" Tom cleared his throat. "There's also the matter of the emergency injunction. Given the illegal eviction of the property owner, the court has frozen your accounts pending resolution. You'll have access to Kyle's salary for living expenses, but all other assets are under review." "You can't do that!" Jessica's mask finally slipped completely. "I'm pregnant. We have a child." "So did I said quietly. "I thought that meant something." Kyle looked between his wife and me, lost. "Mom, please, don't do this. We're family." Family. I tasted the word like spoiled milk. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't throw away their mother like old furniture. "We gave you a place to stay," Jessica protested. "I gave you a house to live in." I turned to Tom. "Are we done here?" "Almost." He pulled out another document. "This is a demand for immediate return of stolen property, including but not limited to pearl necklace, sterling silver serving pieces, and first edition books. You have 72 hours to comply." I looked at the women clustered in my living room, Jessica's friends who'd cooed over my stolen pearls. They stared back, mimosas forgotten, witnessing the unraveling of Jessica's carefully constructed image. "Saturday seems like a good day for serving papers," I told Tom conversationally. "So many witnesses." We turned to leave. Behind us, Jessica started crying, not the pretty tears she'd perfected, but ugly sobs of rage and humiliation. Kyle called after me, but I didn't turn around. I'd heard enough of their words. Now it was time for action. As we drove away, Tom glanced at me. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Like I should have done this 3 years ago. "The judge will review the emergency measures Monday. Given the evidence, I expect full approval. They'll have to let you back in within the week to retrieve any remaining belongings." "I don't want to live there again," I said. "I want them to know how it feels to lose their home. Then I want to sell it." Tom nodded. "That's your right. It's your property." My property. My life. My choice. For the first time in 4 years, I owned more than just things. I owned my dignity, and that was worth more than any house. 5 days after the papers were served, Kyle appeared at Tom's garage apartment. It was 7:15 p.m., still light enough to see his truck parked crooked in the driveway, like he'd been in too much of a hurry to park straight. I watched him through the window as he stood at my door, shifting his weight like he used to when he'd broken curfew. He knocked twice, then again, harder. "I know you're in there. Mom." I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He looked rough, stubble, wrinkled shirt, the hollows under his eyes that came from sleepless nights. "Good." "We need to talk," he said. Your lawyer can talk to mine. Mom, please. He pulled something from his pocket, a folded piece of paper, soft with handling. Emma made this for you. I recognized the crayon scribbles, the lopsided hearts. I miss you, written in Jessica's hand. Though Emma had clearly tried to trace over it, my granddaughter's artwork had always gone straight to my refrigerator. Now Kyle was using it as a bargaining chip. Don't. I didn't take the drawing. Don't you dare use that baby to manipulate me. I'm not. He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. Jesus, Mom, do you know what you've done? Jessica can't sleep. The doctor says stress is bad for the baby. Her friends won't talk to her. The whole school knows. The whole school knows she wore stolen pearls and bragged about them. His face flushed. She didn't know they were yours. I told her they were Grandma Holloway's. They were Grandma Holloway's to give to Grandpa Holloway's bride, which was me, not Jessica. I crossed my arms. You knew exactly what you were doing. He couldn't meet my eyes. The accounts are frozen. We can't access the savings. Your savings? Or my money you helped yourselves to? It's not like that. Then what's it like, Kyle? Explain to me how my retirement fund became your personal ATM. Explain how my mother's china ended up in Jessica's cabinet. Explain how I went from mother to unpaid help to homeless in 4 years. You're not homeless. We got you an apartment. You dumped me in a roach-infested efficiency after stealing my home. My voice stayed level, which seemed to disturb him more than shouting would have. Did you think I'd just disappear quietly, grateful for whatever scraps you threw me? Kyle pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. Jessica in a hospital bed, IV in her arm, looking genuinely ill for once. She's had contractions, early labor signs. The doctor wants her on bed rest. I studied the photo with the same detachment I'd use for a stranger's medical chart. Then she should rest. Mom! What do you want me to say, Kyle? That I'm sorry your pregnant wife is stressed about being caught stealing? That I'll drop the lawsuit so she can relax in my house, wearing my pearls, spending my money? Those pearls, he stopped, tried again. Look, we'll give everything back. The pearls, the silver, whatever you think we took. Just drop this. Please. And the house? His silence was answer enough. I thought so. I started to close the door. You can move back in, he said quickly. Your old room. We'll make it work. My old room in my own house. How generous. What do you want? His voice cracked with frustration. You want us homeless? You want Emma living in some apartment? You want your grandchildren growing up knowing you destroyed their parents? There it was. The emotional manipulation, the guilt trip, the last weapon of someone who'd run out of legitimate arguments. I said slowly, what's legally mine. I want the $90,000 you and Jessica took from my accounts. I want the house I paid for. I want the belongings you stole. And I want you to understand that actions have consequences. We're your family. You were my family. Family doesn't lock each other out. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't treat their mother like a servant and then discard her when she's no longer useful. Kyle's face went through several expressions: anger, frustration, and finally, something like grief. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Yes, you did. Every time you let Jessica insult my cooking, every time you took money without asking, every time you stood by while she erased me from your life, you meant all of it. She's my wife, and I'm your mother, anyway, before you decided her comfort mattered more than my dignity. He held out Emma's drawing again. She asked for you every day. This time I took it, folded it carefully. Then you should have thought of that before you taught her that Grandma was disposable. Mom, please. The court date is in 2 weeks. Your lawyer has Tom's contact information. We have nothing else to discuss. This will destroy us, he said quietly. You know that, right? We'll lose everything. I already lost everything, I reminded him. You just didn't care until it was your turn. I closed the door on my son's face, turned the deadbolt with a steady hand through the window. I watched him stand there for another minute before walking back to his truck. He sat in the driver's seat for a long time, head in his hands, before finally driving away. The drawing lay on my kitchen table. Emma's scribbles, innocent and loving, from a child who didn't understand why Gamma had disappeared. I smoothed it out, traced the crooked hearts with one finger. I'd lost my son years ago, bit by bit, payment by payment. Today was just the funeral. Emma. Maybe there was hope there. Someday, when she was old enough to understand. Or maybe not. Maybe this was the price of self-respect. A grandchild who'd grow up hearing how Grandma destroyed their lives. But as I filed Emma's drawing with my legal papers, evidence of Kyle's attempt at emotional manipulation, I felt no regret. Only the cold satisfaction of someone who'd finally stopped paying for love that was never really there. The courtroom smelled like old wood and disappointment. I sat beside Tom, wearing my best black suit, the one I'd saved for Richard's funeral and hadn't needed since across the aisle. Kyle and Jessica huddled with their lawyer, a young man who kept shuffling papers like he might find a miracle between the pages. Judge Catherine Morrison presided, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and no patience for nonsense. She'd reviewed the case file, Tom told me, and she wasn't pleased. "Let me understand this," Judge Morrison began, looking at Jessica and Kyle over her glasses. "Mrs. Holloway, the elder Mrs. Holloway, owns the house at 412 Bluebonnet Lane. The deed is solely in her name. Is this disputed?" Their lawyer cleared his throat. "No, Your Honor, but there were verbal agreements." "I didn't ask about verbal agreements. I asked about legal ownership." The judge turned to Tom. "Mr. Beck?" "We've submitted the deed, Your Honor, along with receipts showing Mrs. Margaret Holloway paid for all major repairs and the initial down payment that prevented foreclosure. Total investment, approximately $90,000 of her personal retirement funds. And the defendants locked her out of her own property? While she was grocery shopping, Your Honor, they packed her belongings and left them on the porch with a note." The judge looked at Kyle and Jessica like they were something she'd scrape off her shoe. "You evicted the legal owner from her own home, without notice, without cause, without legal standing. Do you understand how that looks?" Jessica started to speak, but their lawyer touched her arm. "Your Honor, my clients believed they had an understanding." "Your clients believed they could steal a house." Judge Morrison's voice could have frozen hell. "Let's discuss the other matters. The pearl necklace?" Tom stood. "Valued at $24,000. Your Honor, we have the insurance appraisal and photographic evidence of Mrs. Jessica Holloway wearing them at a social gathering, claiming them as a gift from her husband." "They were a gift!" Jessica burst out. "Kyle gave them to me." "Mrs. Holloway," the judge said coldly, "your husband cannot give away what doesn't belong to him. Can you produce any documentation showing the pearls were his to give?" Silence. "I thought not. What else?" Tom listed it all. The silver, the books, the systematic draining of my accounts. The judge's face grew stonier with each item. "Elder financial abuse," she said finally. "Theft, conversion of assets. Illegal eviction, Mr. Hoffman. Do your clients have any actual defense beyond we thought we could get away with it?" Their lawyer tried. God help him, he tried. He talked about family misunderstandings, about care provided, about the stress of a new baby. Jessica cried on cue. Kyle stared at his hands. "Enough!" Judge Morrison's voice cut through the performance. "I've heard enough. Mrs. Margaret Holloway, please stand." I rose, steady despite my years. "Ma'am, what you've endured is unconscionable. Your own family, people who should have protected and honored you, treated you worse than a stranger, worse than a tenant. They treated you like you were nothing." She turned to Kyle and Jessica. "Stand up." They did, Jessica clutching Kyle's arm. "I find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. You have 30 days to vacate the property at 412 Bluebonnet Lane. All stolen items must be returned within 72 hours. The freeze on your accounts will remain in effect until a full accounting can be made of funds taken from Mrs. Holloway." 30 days? Jessica's voice went shrill. "I'm due in 6 weeks." Then you'd better start packing. The judge's tone held no sympathy. Furthermore, given the egregious nature of the elder abuse, I'm ordering punitive damages in the amount of $50,000 to be paid to Mrs. Margaret Holloway within 6 months. We don't have $50,000, Kyle finally spoke. Then you'll liquidate assets, sell cars, get second jobs, figure it out. Mr. Holloway, your mother did when you needed help. Judge Morrison gathered her papers. Mrs. Holloway, the elder Mrs. Holloway, you're free to reclaim your property immediately. If the defendants refuse entry or have damaged the property, call the police. They will assist. She looked at Kyle and Jessica one more time. I've been on this bench 20 years. I've seen all manner of family disputes. But this calculated cruelty toward a woman who gave everything for her family, this ranks among the worst. You should be ashamed, both of you. The gavel came down like thunder. Jessica sobbed, real tears this time. Kyle looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Their lawyer was already packing up, probably calculating how to get paid from frozen accounts. Tom touched my elbow. We won, Maggie, everything. I watched my son comfort his wife, watched them gather their things with shaking hands. They had to walk past me to leave the courtroom. Jessica kept her eyes down. Kyle paused. I hope you're happy, he said quietly. I'm not, I told him truthfully, but I'm free. They left, Jessica's heels clicking on the marble floor like a countdown clock. 30 days. They had 30 days to feel what I'd felt. The panic of displacement, the humiliation of depending on others' charity, the knowledge that home was no longer home. Tom drove me to 412 Bluebonnet Lane. The house looked the same from the outside, but I knew it would never feel like home again. Too many poisoned memories. Too many moments of being made to feel unwelcome in rooms I'd paid for. What now? Tom asked. Now I sell it, I said. Every brick, every board, let some other family make memories here. I'm done with this place. And Kyle, Jessica? I thought about Emma's drawing, still in my purse, about grandchildren I might never know, about the son I'd raised and lost to a woman with calculating eyes and sticky fingers. They made their choice, I said. Now they get to live with it. The Texas sun beat down on the house I'd saved and lost and won again. In 30 days, Kyle and Jessica would pack their lives into boxes, taste the same displacement they'd served me. The only difference, they'd earned it. The key turned easily in the lock they'd changed. I stepped inside my house, and felt nothing but the cool breath of air conditioning and the echo of justice finally served. The morning they moved out, I sat in Tom's car across the street, watching. It was 8:45 a.m., the Texas sun already promising another scorching day. A rented moving truck sat in the driveway I'd paid to repair, its mouth open like it was swallowing their life piece by piece. Jessica directed the movers with sharp gestures, her pregnant belly prominent under a t-shirt that had seen better days. No more designer maternity wear. I noticed the frozen accounts had already taken their toll. Kyle loaded boxes himself, sweat staining his shirt before 9 a.m. No hired help beyond the basic movers. They couldn't afford it anymore. I felt nothing watching them struggle, no satisfaction, but no regret either. Just the flat calm of someone who'd already grieved the loss and come out the other side. You sure you want to watch this? Tom asked. I want to see it finished. By noon, the truck was loaded. Jessica stood on the lawn, my lawn, holding Emma, who sucked her thumb and watched the chaos with wide eyes. She saw me then, my granddaughter, and waved with her free hand, "Gamma!" Jessica turned, saw my car, and her face went hard. She whispered something to Emma, turned away, but Emma kept waving until they were in their car, driving away from the house they'd stolen and lost. I waited another hour before entering. The house felt different, empty, but not in the way an unfurnished house is empty. This was the emptiness of abandoned dreams and severed ties. They'd left damage, of course. Scratches on the hardwood from furniture dragged in anger. holes in the walls where pictures had hung. The garage apartment where I'd lived smelled like mildew and broken promises. But it was mine to fix or sell as I chose. The realtor came that afternoon. Beautiful property, she said, measuring rooms with her eyes. Should sell quickly in this market. $350,000, maybe $400,000. $400,000. I'd bought it for $150,000 back in '85, put another $90,000 into saving it. The profit would more than replace what they'd taken from my retirement. Money wasn't everything, but it was better than nothing. Price it to sell fast, I told her. I want it gone. The sign went up the next morning. By evening, we had 3 offers. I accepted the highest, cash, quick close, no contingencies. The new owners were a young couple from Austin, excited about the big yard, the mature trees, the potential. I didn't tell them about the family ghosts. Every house has them. Theirs would be kinder than mine. Tom handled the sale. The check was more than I'd hoped, enough to buy a small condo outright and rebuild my savings, enough to ensure I'd never need to depend on anyone again. The day I handed over the keys, Tom asked, "Any word from Kyle?" No. They'd moved to a 2-bedroom apartment on the east side, the kind with thin walls and parking lot views. Jessica had taken a second job tutoring. Kyle worked overtime. The baby would arrive soon into a life of struggle they'd created for themselves. I could have helped. The mother in me, the grandmother in me, whispered about forgiveness, about Emma needing her gamma, about families reconciling. But the woman in me, the one who'd been locked out and thrown away, she was stronger now. She'd learned that some bridges, once burned, weren't meant to be rebuilt. No regrets? Tom asked as we left the closing. I thought about it. They wanted space. I gave them all the space in the world. 3 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Jessica had delivered a boy. They named him Richard, after Kyle's father. The irony wasn't lost on me, naming the baby after the man whose widow they'd robbed. But Richard would have forgiven them. He was always softer than me. I didn't send a gift, didn't make contact. When well-meaning friends asked about reconciliation, I changed the subject. Some stories don't get happy endings. Some families don't deserve them. I live in a condo now, small but mine. Every door locks with keys only I hold. Every dollar in my account stays where I put it. I sleep through the night without wondering when the next betrayal will come. Sometimes I think about Emma, about the grandson I'll never meet. But then I remember Kyle's face that last day in court. Not sorry for what he'd done, just sorry he'd been caught. I remember Jessica wearing my pearls like armor, claiming my history as her own. I remember the note that started it all. Thanks for everything, but we need the space. They got what they asked for. Space from me, space from my money, space from the safety net they'd taken for granted. All the space they could handle, and then some. As for me, I kept what mattered, not the house. That was just walls and memories. I kept my dignity, my self-respect, the knowledge that when pushed too far, I pushed back and won. They wanted space. I gave them emptiness. They wanted my absence. I gave them abandonment, and they wanted my silence. I gave them the roar of legal justice that echoed through their lives like thunder. And in the end, that's the difference between them and me. They thought family meant taking whatever you could grab. I learned it meant knowing when to let go. They stole my house, but I reclaimed my life. They're stuck with each other, with the consequences of their choices, with the memory of the woman they tried to erase. Me? I'm free. And freedom, it turns out, is worth more than any house, any family, any pearl necklace that was never really yours to begin with. Let them have their space. I'll take my piece. Thank you for listening to my story today. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect with each other. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your own thoughts about family, justice, and standing up for yourself. Your experiences matter, and I'd be honored to hear them.